What's going on, Tiger fans? I know it has been absolutely forever since I've come on and make a video, but my brother here to attest for me. In the last couple of months, I have bought a house, which is why my background is now a generic basement, and I have gotten married. So I have had zero time to make videos, so I apologize. There's been a shit ton that's happened this offseason. We're going to talk about a few of the signings that have happened. We're going to talk about Alex Bregman, the likelihood, and if the Tigers actually, is at the end of the world if they don't get him. So, Chris, appreciate you jumping on here with me to actually do a video because it's been forever, and I feel like there's no better person to come back on and start the channel over with again than you. So, what up, brother?
Well, appreciate the kind words. I got to go out there last weekend with Steve to see your new house. Beautiful house. Everything. I know you're starting to get stuff together there, but talk some Tigers baseball finally. February's coming soon. Players are about to report soon. Tigers have been at least linked to some big key free agents, but they haven't done really much yet. So hoping some moves happen soon, but it's always good to talk some ball.
So I guess we can just talk about the biggest signings. Really, there hasn't been too much. So earlier this offseason, the Tigers at the winter meetings, they signed Alex Cobb. Obviously, everybody knows that. So coming into this offseason, we knew that the Tigers were going to go after starting depth. And at that point in time in the offseason, selfishly, I was hoping they would go after Justin Verlander, who surprisingly got basically what Alex Cobb did. Because what did Cobb get, 16?
He got a 1 year 15 with incentives up to 16 mil.
Okay, and Verlander got 1 year 15.
1 year 15. It's the same thing.
It's the same contract. And, one thing I didn't really understand is everyone's going, well, people just want Justin Verlander back because he was a Tiger, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And everybody was shitting on Justin Verlander's numbers last year. But, okay, first off, Alex Cobb made what did he make, 3 starts last year plus the postseason?
He had like 16 total innings.
Justin Verlander pitched, I think, like 80 innings or 70 innings last year. They weren't great, but he still, at least he almost pitched 100 innings. So even at 47 years old, and then the year prior than that, if I remember correctly, he was pretty fucking good the year before. When he wasn't hurt. And this guy he never had a spring training. He was hurt in between, coming back. He didn't really start feeling healthy till the last month of the season. And I get it. He wasn't even on their playoff roster, but Alex Cobb, I'm not going to shit on Alex Cobb and say he's not a good pitcher. Alex Cobb is a good pitcher. Like, his Tampa Bay Ray days, his San Francisco Giant days, he was really, really good. Mid 2000 teens, he was really good. And it's a 1 year deal, but looking at this, it's just Scott Harris playing the cheap game again, trying to take used parts bin and piecing together a rotation. So what did you think when they signed Cobb?
It was a 1 year deal, so I didn't really, 1 year deals can never really hurt you too much. That's about what the market is, but I think Cobb's remarks kind of took me back more than the signing itself, saying he was about to retire. They go out of retirement, and the Tigers come knocking on his door going, hey, we want you, which makes sense because Harris and him did have ties in San Francisco when Harris was there under Farhan Zahidi. So it's one of his guys, I suppose. But Tigers still have those home club seats that they're opening up this year, and who would fill it? What's a better PR move, to get Alex Cobb or Justin Verlander to fill those seats? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, when he's healthy, he seems pretty good, judging by his numbers and stuff, as you mentioned. I guess he has a lot of finger blister issues. He's had some hip problems or back problems, whatever it was I had read. Quite a lot of, and the thing that bothers me is you can never really have enough pitching in the Major League Baseball, especially for your team, especially for a team that's been plagued with injuries. It felt like the rotation since 2020 for them to finally get healthy. So I don't really know if you're going to get more than 140 or 50 out of this dude. I think I'd be surprised if you got at least 50 to 60 innings from him, barring injury.
So I'm looking at Alex Cobb's numbers here. I'm going to read you. Okay. Since 2016, how many times do you think he's eclipsed 100 innings since 2016?
4 times.
God damn, that was a good guess. Yeah, 4 times in that time span. So, and you look at his numbers have been pretty consistent. In the 4 years that he had 100 innings pitched, 366 ERA, 490 ERA. Uh, we'll count 21 when he was with the Angels. I don't remember him even being on the Angels. 376 ERA, 373 ERA, 387 ERA. So,
I guess
he's
I guess from everything you hear about him, he's a really good clubhouse dude. From everything that I've heard, even like from Petzold's, like their podcast at the Days of Roar, when they've mentioned Cobb, I guess from other beat writers, that Cobb's a really stand-up dude. He's very nice. He's also really good with like media and other players, so kind of fits into the clubhouse. But I just think for the money you threw him, you could have gave JB the same amount of money, and he would have just as much impact, if not more, especially for those young pitchers.
I'm not even mad at that point of it. Here's what I'm frustrated with. The Tigers have sat on their hands this entire offseason, still have glaring holes that in their roster. The players they added don't really fix what their holes were. But here's what I'm most pissed about. Jack Flaherty is still yet to be signed. He's still out there on the market. You're trying to tell me that you couldn't have allocated, instead of only trying to sign every offseason Michael Lorenz and Jack Flaherty, you couldn't have allocated a couple more dollars and given Flaherty at this point in the offseason a 3-year deal with an opt-out after this year, to where you give him a couple of years because that's what he's looking for, or give him a 4-year deal with opt-out after year 2,
Well,
or opt-outs after the first 2 years, and get a better quality starting pitcher. If you're going to spend money, at least spend money on someone, one, that you already had fixed, two, the guy wants a longer-term contract, and, if you give – he hasn't gotten anything on this. Give him like what Jordan Montgomery got, or like what Blake Snell got. Not with the dollar value of it, but the contractual structure of it, where you give him a year-by-year basis a chance to keep exceeding expectations, to jump out of it, to get paid more,
I think when I had seen Walker Bueller sign, the Cobb signing pissed me off a lot more because you can go out and get, to me, a better starter than Cobb and feel like they have, especially from a guy that's been there in the playoffs, has done it, especially was last year in the playoffs. What he did against the Yankees was really good. I
When
think
they
Bueller
when they
would.
signed Bueller, when the Red Sox signed Bueller for 1 year, $21 million, for exactly what the qualifying offer was, that's a slap in the face, because you're telling me you can't go out and spend $7 more million for 1 year.
Yeah. So it's like, there's a part of me that's like, I feel like Scott Harris is the one being cheap here and not Chris Ilitch. For
Yeah,
a while, for like the fan base pretty much is like, Ilitch is, he's pizza boy and he won't cough up the money. I think it's the other way around. I just think it's just how Scott Harris wants to build his baseball team because the funds are there. He just doesn't want to spend.
I think he always has to try to feel like the smartest guy in the room.
Yep.
Is his biggest issue, and
And
he's too scared to take risks.
and it's fine to have a young farm system and it's fine to have a highly ranked system. But what has that done for the Orioles the last 2 years? Well, I
Yeah,
forgot they're winless in the postseason. They're 0-5 in the last
yeah.
2 years. So it's nice to have shiny toys, but you also need major league proven talent to put around the shiny toys that don't, and take some pressure off of them. Bring a guy in like Bregman that's been there and done it and has been on a dynasty and been to those 7 straight LCSs and has familiarity with AJ Hinch and how he runs his team. There's not a better fit to me, especially. But we'll get to this in a minute. But point being is that the moves that have been made so far, they just really haven't felt. That after press conference after the season, after they had lost Game 5, a day or so later when Scott Harris came on with Hinch, you're saying like, they don't want to step off the gas pedal. They want to move the needle a little more. Well, your needle, really, you have 2 years of
Yep,
Tarek Skubal. You're not
yep.
re-signing him. You're
Riley's
not going to
coming close
re-sign him.
too.
You're hoping Job pans out to be really good. Is Reese Olson going to be that 2 or 3 guy, hopefully consistently? I think he's going to be a good number 3. So you really still don't have like that 2. Casey Mize, he's probably going to be a bullpen guy. Him fighting with Matt Manning back there.
Kaiser
Brent,
Montero's not a real starter.
Kiter's not gonna. Kiter Mateo's not gonna be a good starter.
You
Brand
don't even
Herder,
know
I
what
don't.
Sawyer Gibson Long is.
Yeah, you don't know what has with Brand Herder, and Scott Harris wants to sit there and raffle off all these starters. Well, dude, a lot of those starters you proclaim to have were fucking in your bullpen last year because you
Yeah.
couldn't figure out where to fucking put them. So
In
your
the postseason.
rotation,
In the
yeah,
postseason, right?
yeah.
In the
So
postseason, the biggest issue was all they had was Tarek Skubal. That was it. It was Tarek
yeah.
Skubal and chaos. Coming into this offseason, as a 25, you have Tarek Skubal, maybe Alex Cobb, maybe, because you don't know if he's going to hold up, in chaos. Your biggest glare, you were literally 6 outs away or 7 outs away from going to the ALCS, and you did nothing to fix that, one of the biggest holes, to add rotation depth. You just have a bunch of question marks. That's it.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest gripes.
It's really just only, it seems right now, if Job has a pulse, a lot of people think he's going to start with the big club. You're going to have him, Olsen, and Skubal. But then, is Mai's going to win one of those spots? Is Manning? Is Kiter? I mean, Cobb's going to be there, obviously, because you signed him for what you did. But you look at this rotation, other than Skubal, you've done nothing to upgrade this team. Nothing.
Yep.
You needed to go out and it's not at the end of January yet. You can still make trades. Dodgers have a surplus of pitching. They might want to move. You don't know.
Just be leery of their arms. They always get hurt.
Yeah, the injuries, but I'm just saying there's still a little bit of time to acquire starters, but I'm just very disappointed because when you hear that press conference and how they want to press the gas pedal, it's like, dude, you've done nothing to move the needle. You're gonna seriously bank on that magic run to happen again with the same core. And the number one, and even then, after they had a good April, it was so hard to watch that offense because they were just so fucking bad. So bad. I mean, they lose one player in Kerry Carpenter, and they just forgot how to play baseball. They don't know how to fucking hit.
Well, I think, so we don't beat a dead horse for a half hour, we can all agree that 31-11 is not going to happen this year if they get that kind of a hole again.
And it seems like as of now, that's what they're trying to redo again.
Yeah.
They think they can run it back, and you're not.
No, you're not. And, Scott Harris so far did not address that need in the rotation. And, I think right now, and let's jump into the next half of this part of this offseason, with how your roster's constructed, you have a lot of left-handed hitting bats, too many guys that are supposed to be second basemen that you have mix and match at third base / first base now that are all left-handed hitters. And, it seems like there's like an unwillingness to unload some of this surplus of certain spots. So really the next biggest signing after Alex Cobb was the Tigers signed Gleyber Torres for 1-year deal. And they announced that Colt Keith is going to be moving to first base to supplant Spencer Torkelson. Gleyber is going to be looked upon as the everyday second baseman. Now, you look at Gleyber Torres, I like Gleyber Torres. His strikeout rate's pretty good. He's never really been what he was his first couple years in the big leagues. Like that 1 year, he had 38 home runs. His defense, I think, is manageable. I know the metrics don't like him, but at one point in time, he was a shortstop. They moved him to shortstop for a season, but it affected his offense, and he was, kind of psyched out about it, and they moved him back to second base, and it did help his numbers. But I do think he's a manageable defensive second baseman. You look at Cole Keith's numbers in the first half of 2024 at second, they weren't great. Second half, he really got better at turning the double play. His footwork was better. His, just playing second base was better, and he became good. Now they're moving him over to first. And I think, I'll let you take the floor on this first. What do you think this means for Torkelson? How do you think Keith's going to do at first? And how do you feel about Gleyber's presence in the lineup? And do you think he adds any kind of offense not any kind of offense, but enough-ish offense for who he's replacing versus who Keith's going to replace? Because you got to realize that Gleyber replaces Keith's production, and Keith is replacing Torkelson's production at first, so,
which isn't much.
Yeah.
So I think you're already upgrading there. I think just again, you're bringing in Gleyber, who's played in a tough market in New York. He has that heavy pressure on him every day, including the postseason. I mean, my only problem is it's a 1-year deal. He's gone next year because he's banking on himself to have a good season, and if he's going to want like 106 year or almost 200 million, the Tigers aren't going to sign him anyway. So he's going to walk. As what that mean for Keith? Like, what are they going to move him back to second base? Are they going to put Jung there? I don't know. A lot of people think that Colt Keith is going to be the first baseman of the future, anyways, and he was going to move from second to first at some point, regardless, at some point in his career. As for Torkelson, right now he's the odd man out. How many first base platoon players do you see in the league? That's just like strictly DH 1B. It's not too many. So he realistically he could even start the season in Toledo. You just don't know. He's got to have a good spring. There really hasn't been much on Torkelson at all this offseason, other than I guess he's gotten stronger. And he's been down in Arizona working on his swing, apparently. But that's all we've really heard. There hasn't been much more on it.
I guess what they're saying is that, remember last year when he supposedly fixed his swing, you seen like he had changed his hands and whatnot, his hand position. I guess, and I heard this on the Days of Roar podcast, which I recommend, you guys listen to. I guess that supposedly Torkelson might have added a toe tap, which would make sense for him to give him some kind of a trigger because, he's coming from his front half is really firm and he's not, really getting his body in any kind of motion. Maybe adding a toe tap would help his load a little earlier and get his hands in position to not be beat on fastballs. I don't know. I think I look at it like this. He's been given a lot of leash, since he came up. The Tigers, Biggie gave him the spot. Tigers gave him a boatload of time in his rookie season. I thought they gave him too much time. Ended up sending him down right before the All-Star break. He didn't come. He was a September call-up. Marginal success when he came back. Year after that, struggled really bad. June hit, and all of a sudden, this monster came out of nowhere. Destroyed for 3 months. Everyone's like, he's arrived. Here we go. Then last year and he was so bad defensively, and he's just so lost at the plate. They had to send him down again. In 3 years, we're over 1,000 plate appearance sample size, thousands of innings in the field, and all we see is a guy that has inability. And this is another thing that hurts him. And remember, I had talked to you about this, and Evan Petzold said, or actually Cody Stavenhagen, who I don't like, but I agree with him, said the same thing as me. He was surprised that the Tigers didn't try having him play some outfield reps in the offseason this year to try to make him versatile. Because if there's one thing about this Tigers team, you have to be able to play multiple positions to get any kind of playing time on this roster, unless your name is Javier Baez or Trey Sweeney. And now Colt Keith's going to first, and you could put him at second still. So you got some versatility. If you don't have any kind of versatility, and what really murders Torkelson is he's so inconsistent, and his bat has been so up and down, mainly down, and he has no defensive versatility. You got a guy with over 1,000 plate appearances, all these thousands of innings, over 1,000 innings at first base, that he can't field, and you can't rely on him to hit consistently, and he has no other versatility spots for playing any kind of other position. So how are you're trying to squeeze a round peg into a square hole because there's nowhere else for him to go? And I honestly think this is the beginning of the end of him, because you know what's going to happen if he goes into spring and he doesn't hit whatsoever? He's going to be in Toledo, and you know what's going to happen? He's not going to come up till there's some kind of injury at first base. And here's the thing: he might not still come up then, because Matt Vierling has been practicing first base this offseason, and he might play some first base this year, need be. And Colt Keith, if he say he were to get hurt, they got plenty of guys on this team that
I
they
know.
could.
I know Malloy was taking ground balls there too.
Exactly. So if Torkelson struggles again in spring, and then doesn't make the team out of camp, and then he's set down, and there's nowhere on the roster spot for him, and he's still struggling in Toledo. He's literally on the precipice. If Torkelson has another shit year this year, and he's down in AAA for the majority of the time, he's on the precipice of being non-tendered. That's where he is at. Your 1-1 overall pick. He's on the precipice of being non-tendered. Now, I have been on Torkelson's bandwagon since day one. Chris can attest to this. I had so much Spencer Torkelson, so many Torkelson autographs. I have a Torkelson game used bat. I've met him. I've been his biggest supporter. And I just unloaded every single piece of Spencer Torkelson memorabilia because the writing's on the wall. Not every 1-1 pick pans out. And you know something? He could be Jurickson Profar down the line. I'm not saying that Torkelson's going to be a complete bust, but this high ceiling, this guy that's going to be a 30 to 40 home run bat, this guy that was supposed to supplant Miggy, it's not going to happen. He's not there. There was a guy the Tigers had named Brennan Bosch. Go look at his 2010 half season numbers, okay? I thought this fucking guy was going to be the next big thing. He was off the Tigers within 3 years after his first half in 2010. It was never shit. Just floated around the league till he retired. Now, mind you, he wasn't as big a draft pick as Torkelson, but Torkelson right now is looking like he's having the same kind of career, where 1-1 has a good couple of months, has that one season, and then he's going to be tossed around the league getting traded because everyone's going to say fresh start. Now, he might figure it out when he's 28, 29, 30 years old with another organization, because he muddies around in the minors for a couple of years. But, I don't know. His time on the roster is coming to a close. And with Colt Keith, I think Colt Keith is going to tap into his power this year a little bit more because, I was at a game in Cincinnati right around July 4th where he had 2 home runs in a game, and he was shitting on the ball in July and June. He was great. That was when Parker Meadows came back up from injury or from AAA and then got hurt in Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds series, and I think he's going to tap into his power, and I honestly think his footwork at second got a lot better. If you can remember in the first half of last year, he was very slow at turning the double play. His footwork wasn't great. He seemed kind of boxy. The way how quick he got the ball out was meh. But you could look toward the end of the season. I mean, look even in the postseason or toward during the run, like Colt Keith has some good plays. He had some diving plays. He has a decent arm. He never had the greatest arm, especially after he hurt his shoulder, but he has a decent enough arm. I think the glove work is there enough, and I think the footwork is improved that he could be a good first baseman. But, and I'm going to shut up about this, let you chime in a little bit more. I have heard this theory that the Tigers want to give Torkelson another year down in the minor leagues to keep working on his swing. That's why they only signed Glaber to a 1-year deal. Have Colt Keith play first for this year, have Torkelson develop another year in the minors, and then in 26 bring Torkelson back up, have him take back first base, and then maybe shift Keith back to second because they're not going to sign Glaber long term. Now, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my only thing is when Torkelson initially got sent down this past season, he didn't like kill it and then come right back up.
No, he didn't.
He was struggling hitting AAA pitching.
Yep.
And he was still like he had those couple like hot weeks here and there, but he was still struggling to lay off the outside slider or curveball, missing. But then like him popping up everything still was really bad down there. But again, if he makes this roster, what is he just going to play against lefties and Keith gets the righties, or because like you said, they already said he's not learning the outfield. Torkelson's stuck at first base. They're not teaching him any other position. So I mean, Kerry Carpenter, you got to protect him, so you got to have him at least DH. And I don't know what they're going to do at third base yet. So maybe Verling in right field, or I don't know if Winslow's going to make the team. Maybe him in right field, because you got to protect Riley too with that DH spot. So I don't know. I just don't know with Torkelson. I don't know what they're going to do with him. He definitely needs to. We're not going to really know anything until spring. But really, this may be his last year to figure it out, because there was an MLB trade rumors article that came out today on like what's going to happen with Spencer Torkelson, and like over half the community there said he would get traded to another organization. It was like a 40%.
The worst part is he doesn't really have much value.
No.
He's going to be 25. Mm-hmm. He's only hit for 3 months in his entire career.
At least his defense came back in the second part of the season. That looked really good, but the bat was still really, really hit or miss, mostly miss.
But adding Glaber is a definite upgrade because, Glaber, we'll move on to the next part of this here in a second. Glaber last year, 15 homers. Keith last year, 13 homers. Keith last year hit 260. Glaber hit 257. Keith last year had a 309 on base. Last year, Glaber had a 330 on base. Keith last year had a 380 slug. Glaber last year had a 378 slug. OPS, Glaber had 709. Keith was a 689. OPS plus, Keith was a 96, and Glaber was a 101. So another thing about this is like you're adding a guy who definitely was aided a little bit by Yankee Stadium for some of his power. But you look at those numbers, Keith and Glaber were very, very much similar kind of players. You know, looking at all that other stuff, strikeouts, Glaber had 136 last year. Keith had 110. So, you know,
Well, the nice thing is too is you get that right-handed bat in there to kind of try to balance out the lineup from all the lefties.
yes. But I don't think this is so much a Keith for Glaber swap as it is because their offense is so much alike. I think it's a Colt for Torque, more of a Colt for Torque swap to try to get more offense out of your first base position than you did your second base position, I think is what it is. Because defensively, I think Glaber's slightly better than Keith, but offensively, they're pretty much basically the same player last year. So, but
Well, and
first base
and
in
the
total was a disaster. So,
and the production they've been getting really the last 3 years out of both corner infield spots really hasn't been that great.
it's been
So
piss poor, yeah.
especially with the no power, well, other than Torkelson's 30 home run year, 31 home run year, but that didn't come until really late.
Yep.
But that rotating circus at third base really needs to stop.
Yep. So, which brings us to Alex Bregman, and we'll finish on this. So far, we talked Cobb, liked the move, but really didn't solve your depth issue. They got Glaber, pretty much spells Torkelson. Since Torkelson can't play another position, there's really nowhere else for him on this roster. And then Glaber's going to play second. Colt's going to be first. You go back to the same position that the Tigers, you know, I wasn't Jamer Candelario's biggest fan, but since they got rid of Jamer, I cannot believe how bad third base has been for them to try to fill this spot. I mean, whether it's been Andy Ibanez has played there, Nick Maton played there, Matt Vierling's played there. I mean, they have had so many different third basemen over the last couple of years, and they've had no production out of it whatsoever. Gio Urshela played there. He
Yeah,
was good
Zach
defensively.
McKinstry.
Zach McKinstry, he was good defensively, Gio, but he couldn't hit worth a shit. And, now we're coming into this to the back end of the offseason, and the Tigers and Bregman have been linked this entire time. And Evan Petzold keeps reporting that there's mutual interest and they're trying to work and they're heading towards, trying to make a deal work financially. But Scott Boras is so dead set on trying to get this guy 7 years because he turned down five at 156 or 6 at
It was
156?
it was like 6 at 158.
Okay. So, and he turned that down, and then the Astros pivoted. They tried to get Nolan Arenado, but then they ended up making a trade for Isaac Paredes and put him at third. And, now the Tigers, they still need a third baseman, and the Blue Jays got Anthony Santander, so they're out of the Bregman thing. And Boston's been rumored, but I guess Rafael Devers doesn't, they don't, Bregman said he'd be willing to play second, but they don't know if they want to put him at second and whatnot, or maybe put Devers at first, trade Casas. So, the puzzle pieces all fit together so perfect for this thing, but they just nobody's been able to make a deal. And now I'm getting worried to the point every time you come into this offseason and you get this late in the offseason and nobody's made an offer or nobody's signed yet, it always seems like at the very, very end, somebody comes in that you don't expect it because say the player was trying to get a 7-year deal, right? And then they can't make a deal with the team that they're most linked to because the team won't budge off the offer. And then it comes to spring training, and all of a sudden the team comes in, swoops in, and signs him for a 5-year deal, but adds a bunch of opt outs into it. And basically, the player's playing for he gets a 5-year deal, but he's basically playing for 1 year and an opt out, and he's just at a destination location to put up numbers, kind of like when Correa signed with the Giants and signed with the Mets. Their physicals failed, and all of a sudden the Twins came back out and got him at like half of what the deals were for San Francisco and New York. They swooped in and got him out of nowhere. So I'm wondering, if that's going to happen with Bregman. So if the Tigers don't get Bregman, what is your opinion on this? And do you think if they don't get Bregman to like pair with Torres as another right-handed hitter, do you think that 86 wins is going to fall back down to the mid-70s with how the team is constructed?
I think a lot of it too just depends on health because Kerry Carpenter really has not been healthy. We really got to see Riley Green at his best last year, pretty much somewhat healthy through the season. Um, but overall, I mean, I would call it a disappointment. I mean, the only thing is when you mentioned Jamer was really bad at third base this last year as a Tiger. But it's not like he was like Matt Chapman over there. So I think it'd be disappointing. What are and if whenever Bregman decides to sign, whether that's before February or after, you know, I mean, I guess you're just gonna have Matt Vierling on the dirt. I'd imagine he'd be the everyday third baseman over there if that was the case, and you would just rotate him with Ibanez and McKinstry again. But the problem is they had a negative 13 DRS over there last year. You bring in a guy like Bregman who gives you he's a 4-WAR player, won you a Gold Glove, brings the veteran leadership in the clubhouse, has been to like 5 World Series, 3 or 5 World Series just in general, and just like another thing, he's familiar with Hinch. He I guess he's really like another one of those good clubhouse dudes. But he also puts in a right-handed bat in your lineup, which you desperately need to balance out. But he also doesn't strike out that much, which is something else this lineup really needs. He's never struck out 100 times in his career.
Yep.
So you see this stuff now where people are like, "Oh, he's depreciated," or like he's what am I trying to say? His numbers are falling a little bit. They're concerned because his his strikeouts to walks last year was like 44 walks to 84 strikeouts. It's like newsflash, guys. In today's baseball, that's still really fucking good. You
He was
know,
hurt last year
so
too.
if you go back 2 seasons, Bregman's OPS was under 800 in the next 2 seasons, and he got it back up over 800 the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So I guess from Astros fans and like when the Days of War had like that Ford radio broadcaster dude on there, they say Bregman's a slow starter, but what he brings to the clubhouse and just like his at bats, it's second to none. You're adding a really big veteran presence to that lineup, and just a smart overall hitter. The most things I see people complain about is that stupid OPS little dip problem, which still insert him in the lineup. He'd be probably, if not the best hitter on the fucking team,
By a lot.
regardless. By a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't need to bring him to Comerica Park to hit home runs.
No.
He plays Gold Glove defense. When he doesn't hit for power, he's going to win you at third base with his plays. Because I'm sure a lot of you are real happy to see Zach McKinstry keep olaying baseballs like he did in fucking Cleveland in the postseason. Real happy to keep seeing Andy Ibanez over there at third base too. This rotating circus has to stop. You need an everyday third baseman there. It's a very, very pivotal defensive spot on the diamond where you need someone solid there, and Bregman does that for you. And he's been in all high pressure situations. I understand he can benefit from the Crawford boxes, and like there was talks about Boston, as you mentioned. I know they have that Christian Campbell guy potentially coming up, so second base might not be an option there. But I don't know what he brings with what he brings with the glove, and like you see some of his home runs. Alex Bregman's got power. His splits were actually better on the road last year than they were at home for batting average wise. Every other number like OPS was pretty close, so he just doesn't benefit from. I guess it's Dankin Park now. He's a good road hitter too.
I think the Tigers are at the point right now with this team that you had a glimmer of success.
Let me add one more thing. Sorry. The thing that pisses me off the most is that you were 7 outs away from the league championship series. Twins have done shit. Royals have done shit. The Guardians subtracted Naylor and Jimenez. This division's wide open. And you're sitting there saying you want to win the AL Central, and you were this like super close to just moving on to going to New York to the league championship series. Would they have beat the Dodgers? Probably not. However, you're that close and you've done nothing all offseason but sit on your fucking hands. That's bullshit to the fan base.
Like I was saying, I think they're at the point right now with this team is you had a glimmer of success, you tasted the playoffs, and right now as this roster sits, I don't think they're even a 500 team because it took Skubal to win the Cy Young. You had to piecemeal your rotate. Casey Mize was hurt a couple of months of the season. You had to hope Kyler Montero did something. Reese Olson was hurt. I mean, you piecemealed the shit out of it. Like you figured out this bullpen system that you can't do for 162 games. The fact that it worked for 2 months plus the postseason as long as it did is a miracle in itself. And I think the Tigers realized that, which is more surprising by their offseason moves of lack of pitching and try to think that what they have internally is enough. But you had someone like Bregman, somebody that, I'm looking at his baseball reference right now. In 9 seasons, he's only had one, two, 3 seasons under a 4 WAR. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons over a 4 WAR, and he's had 2 seasons over a 7 WAR, and 2 of them. You got a guy that is a legitimate hitter. You don't need his power. The Tigers don't need his power. They don't need him to hit 50 home runs. They don't need him to hit 20 home runs. They need somebody that's going to get on base. They need somebody that's going to make consistent contact. They need somebody that's going to help show these young guys good plate approach, carry the legitimate middle of the order lineup bat, and help turn the offense over. They need somebody in there that is a proven veteran leader because, like the 06 team, it was Pudge and Guillen, all those guys, they came a little earlier before Zamaya and Verlander. They were there a couple years before, and they used those guys to help the young core come out, and then the young core came out, and it was a good intertwine. Right now, the Tigers really haven't had that veteran guy in the last couple of years. Miggy was basically the last of it, but he was, as much as I love Miguel Cabrera, we can all admit he was pretty useless in his last 4 years in the big leagues. I think right now, with how the Tigers are, where they're so young and really having veteran presence and really still having no proven bats. Riley Green, he's great, but you can't really say that he's a proven bat because he's only had 1 year where he's played over 100 games. He gets hurt. Gary Carpenter, he can hit. He's got a ton of power, but he's not a proven bat. He gets hurt a lot. You haven't seen him do it for a stretch. He plays 130 games and hits X amount of home runs over that time period. You need somebody to come in, step in, to be a pillar to help these guys, to help these guys grow and be somebody that, when they get to the playoffs, hopefully get to the playoffs again and keep advancing and go further, and be somebody in the pillar in the middle of your lineup that can help your team get better. And he does that. It don't even matter about the decline because he's going to decline. It don't even matter if the power goes down. It's going to go down. He's playing at Comerica Park versus Minute Maid. It's all about the veteran presence, a bat that can actually hit, a plate approach that actually plays, and somebody that you can put at this position at third base that one plays it competently, even at a level of a Gold Glove level, elite level, and a guy that you actually have someone that you can put in the middle of the lineup that helps Riley, that helps Carey, that could get Parker Meadows hopefully carries over, and Alex Bregman can hit him in. Just keep the lineup. It helps this offense. They got to get somebody like that. And you know something? With Alex Bregman, I think the Tigers are an 83-84 win team because of the pitching staff. I think the bullpen's good, but I think this bullpen is going to change a lot more than we think throughout the season because there's going to be injuries and there's going to be ineffectiveness, and they're going to mix and match. Just kind of like Brant Herter and Brian Sammons, all those guys, they came out of nowhere. They weren't on that team the entire year last year. They came out of nowhere, and they helped, and they did what they had to do. And you know something? I think it's going to happen again this year. You're gonna have a change of relievers and whatnot, and you just don't know about the rotation. But I think if you add Bregman, I think it guarantees you an over 500 record because of his offense. He's going to be somebody that can help you. But without Bregman, looking at this team, like, dude, I don't see them winning more than like 76, 77 games, as they said.
Well, the thing is, too, with Bregman, people really complain about it because they're like, we don't want a contract similar to Javi Baez. Those are like a Javi Baez type player. It's like, those two aren't even comparable as players.
No.
Bregman shits on Javier Baez in every way.
Javi Baez had glaring holes since he was a rookie. Everybody knew that guy struck out too much and he didn't make enough contact to be consistent. He had a lot of years where he played through those holes, and his bat speed was a lot better and his contact abilities were a lot better, but he was never going to age well. Bregman is 30, and I have no doubt that you'll get, if you sign him for 6 years, 4 of those 6 years will be great. No doubt.
Yeah.
In my mind. But,
yeah.
I don't know, how this is going to work. I don't know, what Boris is looking for. I don't know, if they eventually cross the finish line. I don't know if
you
the team
already,
comes out of nowhere and signs him.
He said that he's not going to take any short term deals. So
Well, not
we'll
playing
see.
in February and guys are reporting to spring training changes people's minds. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you
I
know.
would think he signs before February. I would think, but who knows?
Well, that's all I got for you guys. You got anything else to add, Chris?
No, I just hope they go out and get another bat to help this team because you know, I've seen there's more comments I've seen. It's like, yeah, Scott Harris, he's letting the young kids play. Yeah, but Tarek School's about to leave in 2 years. So your
Yeah.
window's pretty short.
Yep.
And your young prospects can turn to well, as you've seen, Mize and Torkelson, 1-1s. They can all be shit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you
you
look at your
still
first round
need
picks in the last 10 years, dude.
you
You have
still you
guys.
still need to bring in proven MLB players like Bregman around a young team to help supplement this core.
Yep.
End of
Yep.
story. And if every winning franchise does that.
Yep.
Dodgers brought in Otani. They brought in Freddie Freeman, to help supplement their team. Look at the freaking they're a topic for another day, but you want to make this a destination for players and stuff to come to, then start fucking acting like it. Pretty much.
Yeah. And the one thing I can't stand is just how everyone he just wants to keep waiting on his minor league players to come up and try to affect the big leagues. We don't know if Jace Young is going to hit. He didn't really show any ability to play anywhere so far in the big leagues in this 40 games up there. Max Clark is still a year away, and then you have the adjustment period for him to come up, and you don't know if he's going to hit. Kevin McGonigal again, potentially a year away.
Yeah,
You don't
you
know
don't
if
know
he's
what's
going to go up and hit, if he's
you
going to
don't know
be
what's going
anything.
to happen with that Briseño guy, Lorenzo.
Lorenzo,
There's
yeah.
just a lot of what ifs, but you still have to have proven MLB talent to help supplement your core, to help take pressure off them, but help this lineup bolster a little bit more.
I want to go back.
So
I'm going
if
to end
you
this right
if
here.
you wanna say you're gonna win the AL Central and not step off the gas pedal, then start fucking doing it then and stop talking about it. Because with these two moves so far, you haven't done shit.
No, nothing. And I want to end on this. In 2021, we all went, man, the Tigers farm system's looking great. They got Matt Manning, they got Casey Mize. Casey Mize threw a no-hitter in like one of his first minor league starts. They got this kid named Tarek Skubal, who they drafted late, but he looks like he could be the best of the three. They got Franklin Perez, they got Torkelson, they got Riley Green. And all of a sudden they start triculating to the big leagues. Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal come up at the same time in 21, or it might have been 20. I can't remember. It was one of those two. I think it was 21.
20, 20,
And they both
20.
pitched in Chicago. And you're like, wow, great, the future's here. Then all of a sudden, Riley Green and Torkelson come. It's what 22, right, or
Yeah,
21?
Torkelson was 22. Riley should have been up there, but he hit
He
that
got
foul
hurt.
ball off his
He got
foot
hurt
or whatever it
in
was.
spring. Yeah. But all of a sudden, 22 comes around. It's like, oh shit, Matt Manning, Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, they're all in the big leagues, and here's Torkelson and Riley. They're coming up. This offense that can't hit, and we were saying this. I've got videos saying this. This offense is going to be better because you added these two rookies that can finally hit and add, and they're big time guys, they're big prospects. They come up by 2022. Matt Manning was already starting to show cracks. Casey Mize was really good in 21. His few innings in 21 started looking good in 22, and then he gets hurt, and then all of a sudden Tarek Skubal gives up the most fucking home runs of all time, and then 23 comes around. Casey Mize is gone for the entire season because he has fucking Tommy John surgery. Torkelson got sent down. Riley Green came up, played his half season, but he was already getting hurt. Matt Manning has already fallen out of favor. And then last year, Matt Manning is a fucking spot starter for some of it. Casey Mize isn't even effective at all. Tarek Skubal, came back, lit the world on fire. He was amazing. Then Torkelson again, you know, gets sent down. It's just like, so from 21, where we had all these big guys that you're like, can't wait till they get here. It's going to change the outlook of this team. You go from 21 to 24 in that 3-year span where those guys are supposed to affect the fucking big leagues, and only two guys did anything out of all those first round picks. Because Alex Faedo, another bigger prospect, fucking garbage. Didn't end up doing anything, ended up turning into a bullpen pitcher, and all these guys that were supposed to do something. And here's the thing, my point of this, my long-winded point, is right now we go Bersenio, Lorenzo, McGonigal, Clark, maybe Bryce Rayner. We go, man, these guys are coming to the big leagues. They're going to team with Riley Green and all these other guys, and they're going to have so much team speed with Parker Meadows and Max Clark. Guys, they could just be the same. They could be the same fucking thing. You could literally be rolling the dice and have the same result. Max Clark could suck. Kevin McGonigal could suck. Tyler Lorenzo could blow out his knee next year and never make the big leagues. Lorenzo the same, or Bersenio the same thing. You just don't know. So to sit here and keep saying what if and let's wait and our core is going to be built and you got to add these guys and it's all of a sudden they're going to be fucking World Series champions in 2030. No, it's not going to happen because you don't know with prospects, because we said the same shit in 2021 about the current crop of guys who most of these dudes, Casey Myers might not even be a Tiger anymore at the end of this year. Torkelson might not even be a Tiger at the end of this year. Matt Manning may never pitch another game in a Tigers uniform because he can't even make the fucking big league roster. So my point about all this is why they got to go sign Alex Bregman and bring somebody in here to help you extend when you already have a fucking team that won 86 games and made the playoffs. This is why signing Alex Cobb and nobody else is fucking stupid for your pitching staff when you still have the same glaring hole that ended up knocking you out of the fucking playoffs last year and makes your team still in the same spot where you have no starting depth and you're relying on a bunch of guys that are hurt, that are ineffective, which is why you win. You finally go to the playoffs, you have a glimmer of hope, and you finally win some fucking games to do something, and you do nothing. All because you're sitting here, as Scott Harris is sitting here saying, well, we built this, we drafted this, we got these guys here to do this, which means fucking nothing in the long run. When you got all these guys that are unproven, you don't know what they're going to be in the big leagues. You don't know if they're going to be anything. You don't know if they're going to be superstars. Period. End of story. And that's the most frustrating part about this franchise and about the state of this team. You have talent. In 21, when you said that these guys were going to come up and they were going to affect your team and you were going to be a better roster, you had no talent. You had fucking Robbie Grossman and Jonathan Scope and Jordy Mercer and Nico Goodrum. You didn't have a fucking talent. You have talent. You have players. You have a potential young core. And adding Alex Cobb and 1 year of Gleyber Torres does nothing to supplement the fact that Zach McKinstry sucks. Matt Vierling's not an everyday player. He shouldn't be hitting third in your lineup. Tarik Skubal is your only legitimate pitcher. Alex Cobb might give you Matt Moore innings. Go look at that, how many innings Matt Moore has as a Tiger. He had like fucking 3 until he blew his arm out. Or Julio Teheran when they signed him. Same difference. Just different jersey numbers and different names on the back. So for the fact that they're sitting there on their hands and they're going to potentially go into the season with this roster and hope that another 31-11 happens and to hope that they can do some kind of bullshit like they did with this pitching chaos bullshit where they're going to go out there and wildly exceed expectations for a 2-month span while Minnesota collapses is a joke. It's a joke. And you don't know. Prospects mean fucking nothing. Your prospect rankings mean shit. It's just a potential chip that has some kind of value at the table that you might hit on. But I want you to look at this current team. I want you to go look at all those guys who you want off this Tigers roster to see their fucking draft positions. How many 1 picks there were that are on this roster that are nothing. It's literally Riley Green is your only first round pick on this team that's worth a shit. Because I think Tarik Skubal was a 9th. That's it. So that's all I got to say. So appreciate you guys watching. I'll try to make some videos closer to the season. Do like a spring training preview. I don't know. Right now, life is kind of hectic, but I did want to get on here and talk some baseball and have my brother on here. So, Chris, you got anything else?
Hopefully they make a move for another bat because they need it.
Yep. If they don't, it's a joke, especially after winning 86 games. So, all right, guys. Appreciate you watching. Have a good one. Go Tigers.